Hi there. How are you today? Are you wondering where did Kristen go? I'm a special guest, and I'm going to start off this virtual church school. Well, actually, it really is Kristen. Without my glasses, without my hat, and without my scarf. But what I just did was I put on a disguise because today's theme is about disguises, about things that we don't recognize, situations, people, but actually they're in disguise. And there's a special story about Jesus after Jesus died on the cross, and I'm going to talk about that today. So welcome everyone. This is Virtual Church School. My name is Kristen Putney, and I am the Faith Formation Director at the Seekonk Congregational Church. I also do youth ministry. I invite anyone to be a part of this engagement, this video here. And so it is multi-age, and so I do try to cover all different learning, how you learn, all different ways of learning. And if you are new and you're not part of the Seekonk Congregational Church and you've decided to start watching these virtual church school engagements here, happy to have you here. So let's see. I always do three things, and I'm going to just remind at the very beginning of this. I always do a way to pray, a scripture or a story, and then I end with sign language. And then I usually throw in a few other things, which usually involves artwork from the children. It usually involves maybe a little game and definitely a few stories, storybooks to recommend. So welcome. Yes, today, this week actually was Earth Day. Maybe you were out and about and you were able to experience outdoors and be more sensitive to what is around you. Certainly during this pandemic time, we enjoy so much being outside. And my altar is going to reflect that. Every week I invite you to make up your own altar at home in a special space, and it could be thematic for each week. Mine is. So today, because I'm going to honor Earth Day, I have a beautiful flower. I'm going to talk a little bit about things in nature, but this actually is a cross that Linda Ryder made on Palm Sunday, and so I kept it and I made it for my altar. I glued it to cardboard. I have my candle, which has special rocks inside a little glass jar. The birds are definitely coming about, so I have a special symbol of new life. I'm going to talk about in a little bit about nature and what is in nature, and this is actually a heart rock. Maybe you have some at home. Maybe you collect them. And then this is my favorite part of my altar. Julia, my good friend Julia, who's now in college, did this for me, and this is a cherry blossom. She did it for Palm Sunday when we talked about new life. Yes, I would like to begin with, since we're going to honor, oh, you can hear that, I bet. We're going to honor Earth Day. I have my rain stick, and it has been raining. Today's a beautiful day. So I invite you now to be in the spirit of prayer. Maybe close your eyes and listen to this beautiful rain stick. I'm going to do it several times, so you certainly can keep your eyes open or closed. So loving God, surround us with your beautiful nature as we open our eyes, as we close our eyes, and we listen to the sound of rain, your blessings from above. Amen. I have a special book that I use for talking about Earth and honoring Earth Day. And this is called, This is the Earth That God Made. And I'm going to read this to you. I love the rhythm of the book. You'll recognize it. A lot of books are made this way. This is by Lynn Downey. And it begins, the illustrations are beautiful. This is the earth that God made. Happy earth smiling. As I read this, I want you to think about creation. And sometimes we get so busy in life, we don't realize that God made everything and we need to honor it and care for our earth. And I know many of us are doing that just right now because we need to. This is the dirt that covers the earth that God made. These are the mountains that rise from the dirt that covers the earth that God made. These are the fountains that flow from the mountains that rise from the dirt that covers the earth that God made. This is the rolling, rocking sea that drinks from the fountains that flows from the mountains that rise from the dirt that covers the earth that God made. This is the wind blowing soft and free across the rolling, rocking sea that drinks from the fountains that flow from the mountains that rise from the dirt that covers the earth that God made. This is the buzzing honeybee that sails on the wind, blowing soft and free across the rolling, rocking sea that drinks from the fountains that flow from the mountains that rise from the dirt that covers the earth that God made. This is the grand old willow tree that holds the hive of the honeybee that sails on the wind, blowing soft and free across the rolling, rocking sea that drinks from the fountains that flow from the mountains that rise from the dirt that covers the earth that God made. This is my father down on his knees in the shade of the grand old willow tree that holds the hive of the honeybee that sails on the wind, blowing soft and free across the rolling, rocking sea that drinks from the fountains that flow from the mountains that rise from the dirt that covers the earth that God made. This is my mother, my sister, and me, beside my father down on his knees, in the shade of the grand old willow tree that holds the hive of the honeybee, that sails on the wind, blowing soft and free, across the rolling, rocking sea, that drinks from the fountains that flow from the mountains, that rise from the dirt, that covers the earth that God made. This is the prayer I say gratefully to God, the Almighty, who made all that I see. Thanks for my mother, my sister, and me, and for my father who's down on his knees. Thanks for the shade of the grand willow tree and the hive it holds for the honeybee. Thanks for the wind where it sails soft and free across the rolling, rocking sea. Thanks for the fountains that flow from the mountains. And thanks for the dirt that covers the earth that is home to these gifts that you made. Amen. This is a great book. I highly recommend it. It's available online. What I love about it is in the back, it has things to do as a family. It has projects. And I was going to read to you. It actually has did you know facts. So did you know that, I love this one, bees dance. They perform special dances to let other bees know where to find flowers that provide nectar for their hives. So maybe if you do see a bee, and I know it gets a little scary, maybe before you run off, take a look. Maybe it's next to a flower and it's doing a little twirly dance. Another fact, without trees, there would probably be no animals or people. Do you know why? I forgot about this fact. Plants and trees give off oxygen we all need to breathe. So think about that. Some of the tallest mountains and deepest valleys, where do you think they are on Earth? This is cool. Where do you think they are? Guess what? They're at the bottom of the sea, bottom of the ocean. And then last fact here that's kind of fun, just picture this. Did you know whales can sing? And some fish, yes, can fly. Fish can fly. So that's a great book. Highly recommend that book. Okay, so thinking about nature, your first activity, which you can do later, is to go out in nature. Maybe you already do this. And observe it. And there's two things that I like to do when I'm out in nature. The first one, as I mentioned to you, is I like to look for heart rocks. You find them everywhere. Little ones, big ones, right? And then I get a little creative. This one says, no God. Can you see that? No God. So those are my heart rocks. You can physically pick them up and collect them. Or if you have a camera, you could take pictures. And that's kind of a neat thing to do. I have a friend that likes to find crosses out and about. And this was a cross in her backyard. And it was just laying there. She did not put it together. And she took a picture of it. So I invite you to do that when you have the chance to go outside and look into nature. And thank God for our beautiful earth. And let's protect it and keep it beautiful. I have something, has to do with disguises. So my lesson today is about not recognizing when something is happening, and perhaps it's a blessing. And the reason is it's either in disguise or you haven't seen the full picture. So I thought I'd play a game with you. I put together 5 things that I just randomly found in my home, and it's a guessing game. And I'm going to show them to you, and you're going to guess what they are. But the point of it is you're only going to see a little piece of it. Okay, so let's see. The first one, I'll do this one. Here's the first one. What is that? What could that be? Is it a button? What do you think that is? So that's the first one. And guess what it is? It's a battery. So when you first saw a little piece of it, maybe you weren't sure what it was. All right. The second one. What could that be? Whoop, fell right out. It's a cracker. The next one. What is that? Are you hungry? Is it spaghetti? No. Yarn. Looks like spaghetti. I have 2 more. Let's see. Yeah, 2 more. There's this one. This one's kind of neat. What is that? Is it tile, a window? I bet you know what it is. Right? A Rubik's Cube. Okay, and the last one. This one actually is a painting that's in my home. So you probably aren't going to guess what it is, but it's kind of neat. So I love this painting. Someone did it for me. I didn't do it, but I don't even know if you can even see it. But it's a black shape right here. A little bit of pink. Has 2 holes. And it is a painting of my dog Bella. So that was my little game. Maybe you guessed what they were. Maybe you did not. But the idea is that some things come unaware to us, disguised. And so until we get the full picture, we're not recognizing what is really happening. So it has to do with our story today, the road to Emmaus, out of the Gospel Luke 24:13 through 35. I'm going to read the story, and I'd like you to think about what's actually happening. So this has occurred right after how we celebrated Easter. The tomb was empty, and so that is what has just happened, and the news is going about. Now on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the woman had said, but they did not see him. Then he said to them, 'Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?' Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, 'Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day now is nearly over.' So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, 'Were not our hearts burning within us while he was walking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?' That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, 'The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon.' Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread." So that is a very interesting story. Can you picture that? Maybe similar situations happen to you, maybe in the past, and maybe they're happening right now. So this Bible lesson talks about trusting God when we don't understand how God is working through current events right now. These challenging things that are happening in our world are difficult to understand, and I know that all of you have said this. Why are they happening? Well, we have to trust that God is at work and is with us throughout this painful and unusual journey. The disciples on the road to Emmaus didn't recognize Jesus at first, and when he explained things to them, all of the pieces fell into place. Just like the special little things that I had. You didn't know it was a cracker, but then when I revealed more, you knew exactly what it was. We don't always recognize what God is doing in our lives, and it is hard to see any blessings in front of us. But God is working through those around us, and they may even be in disguise like Jesus was to these men on the road. So as we encounter difficult situations or circumstances and feel confused about why, we can trust that God is at work and God promises to be working things for our good. We cling to the hope that even hard things can bring blessings. I hear about many of you keeping an eye out for blessings. You may recognize that sometimes God uses other people around you, and maybe you have examples, as well as these situations and circumstances. We hear them on the TV. I read them in the paper. Well, we are Easter people. I keep saying that. We are Easter people, and we have come to realize that God is demonstrating love and strengthening us even when things are tough. God is faithful and steadfast, so we can gain strength and hope in God. Few parents have reached out to me and have asked if I have special books on death. And I think now we just came out of Easter, so we talked about Jesus dying on the cross, and that's a hard subject, right? Right, kiddos? That's kind of a hard subject. And for parents too, to understand what does this all mean. And then certainly with this pandemic and the news is always on, there's a lot of people that have been very, very ill, and there's a lot of people that have passed on. So maybe the conversation about death is really important right now. I have many books, so please reach out to me. I have actually, it's a box of books on death for children. But one of the books that I have that I love to, I just got it more recently, but the Invisible String. Some of the books I have are very old, but this is a newer book. Maybe you know this, but it's called The Invisible String by Patrice Karst. I'm going to read parts of it, but I love the imagery because I have had people pass on, and it will happen in the future for all of us at some point. And so this is a really important conversation. It also has to do with when we feel afraid and perhaps we don't want to leave, especially now that we're with our parents all the time, and then eventually we'll be able to go out and about. This is really a great message about that. To find the beginning of the story. I like about the beginning of the story because it's about Liza and Jeremy. The twins were asleep one calm and quiet night. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a twin. So I picture myself, and I have a twin brother, Matthew. So Kristen and Matthew could be in this picture. There we are, sleeping. Suddenly it began to rain very hard, just like the rain stick, right? But thunder rumbled until it got so loud that it woke them up. "Mommy, Mommy," they cried out as they ran to her. "Don't worry, you two. It's just the storm making all that noise. Go back to bed." "We want to stay close to you," said Jeremy. "We're scared." Mom said, "You know we're always together no matter what. But how can we be together when you're out here and we're in bed?" said Liza. So this is what she said. I love this part. Mom held something right in front of them and said, "This is how." Rubbing their sleepy eyes, the twins came closer to see what Mom was holding. "I was about your age when my mommy first told me about the invisible string. Here it is." What's going to happen with that invisible string? "I don't see a string," said Jeremy. "You don't need to see the invisible string. People who love each other are always connected by a very special string made of love." "But if you can't see it, how do you know it's there?" asked Liza. "Even though you can't see it with your eyes, you can feel it with your heart and know that you are always connected to everyone you love." So the book continues, and the twins ask, "Well, what about when I'm at school? What about when I'm on the playground?" All these different times. And yep, you'll feel me all the time. So I'm going to move on. Then, this is important. Then Jeremy quietly asked, "Can my string reach all the way to Uncle Brian in heaven?" "Yes, even there." So that invisible string can even reach those who have passed on, that are with God, that we are no longer, we can touch them. Does the string go away when you're mad at us? That's a good one. And guess what the answer is? Never, said Mom. Love is stronger than anger, and as long as love is in your heart, the string will always be there. Within a few minutes, they were asleep, even though the storm was still making the same loud noises outside. As they slept, they started dreaming of all the invisible strings they have, and all the strings their friends have, and their friends' friends have, and their friends' friends have, until everyone in the world was connected. Look at that. So maybe you can think about all the strings, the invisible strings that you have, all the people you know that you love. And from deep inside, they could clearly see no one is ever alone. And so in our faith, we think about, we think about the message of an invisible string. And we know that God has an invisible string connected right to us because God is love. And so we are never alone. Okay. Hope you like that story. So the next part is a way to pray. I put that at the end. A special way to pray. We've been praying in all different ways. I'm going to remind some of you, have you done the 5-finger prayer lately? That was one of my first videos, right? You take your hand and you're going to, who am I going to pray for, right? So you point to your heart, the people closest to you. The pointer is those who lead the way, your teachers, pastors, those who stand tall, the tall man, right? The police, people that, the leadership. This one is our weakest finger, so we pray for those who are weak, right, and ill, and maybe all the caregivers, right, nurses and doctors that are caring for the people that are ill. And then the last one is the letter I in sign language, and that's for yourself. That's how you pray. But right now we're going to do, I like doing this one, praying in color. You know I'm an artist, but anybody can do this. And this is just a special way to pray. You could put beautiful music on, quiet music. And in this book, there's many different ways. Sybil Macbeth, Praying in Color. This is the kids' edition. She just goes through in different methods, but I wanted to come up with a method having to do with not seeing the full image and maybe closing your eyes at first. So I recommend with a crayon or a pencil or whatnot, going onto a piece of paper and closing your eyes and just making like the letter 8 and swirling around, and you'll make these shapes. You can do it with your eyes open. And then open your eyes, and then what I invite you to do to pray for people, this is just a way to pray. You can write all the names in the little circles that are created, these little spots. And then in this book, it invites you to put all different designs around, polka dots and circles. I actually made some trees. So I have all different people I'm praying for. And color it in. It'll keep you busy. And you can keep all those in prayer. I'll show you in this book. If you feel like, oh, I just want to draw shapes. This person just did shapes with color and with names. So that is my way to pray this week. I wanted to share with you something very special that I'm doing. I miss all of you greatly. I miss being in the building. I miss actually doing, preparing for church school, the lessons, and working with the teachers, the Christian Education Committee. Well, I've been working at home, and I have decided to put packets together. Faith at Home, Faith Activity packets. So all the church school children will get them at some point. I will deliver some of them. I will mail others. I wanted to show you a little bit of what's going to be in it. So they will be, some of the pieces will be for everyone, multi-age, and others I will cater it to who's in the home. So if you're a young person, I have an I Spy. So this is a bunch of Play-Doh with lots of objects inside. And so it's for, it's the packets have to do with the multi-senses. So this one has to do with touch. And then there's a version for an older person. Let's see, I have, you'll have all of it here. So there's touch, there's an activity to hear, sort of an I spy idea, but I hear outside. There's a faith fitness movement. I love that. So you're going to do all these different activities, but it's faith-filled. You'll say different things. Taste. I'm going to include some chocolates, some kisses. Observe. So I have 2 science projects. One for the older kids, which has to do with a bar of soap. And the other is for the younger ones. It has to do with mixing colors and what happens when you mix. This one isn't mixed yet. And what else? Oh, and then a couple of extra things. Origami will be in there. And instructions, special paper. That's folding. And then my favorite material to make a God side. So that I'll be working on. That will be reaching your homes this coming week. You can reach out to me if for some reason you didn't get one. But it'll take about a week to get there. And then my last part of today's virtual church school is sign language. And because we've moved out of Easter and Jesus died and the resurrection of Jesus, we have communion now, right? We have bread and cup. And so we remember Jesus. Every time we have communion, we remember Jesus. So that is going to be our sign language. We remember Jesus. So this is we. You can touch your right shoulder and swirl it around to your left. We. Remember is this. Bring it up to your forehead, your right thumb, and down on top of that other thumb. So, remember. So, we remember. And I love this one. Many of you do know this. Jesus. Jesus, right? Jesus died on the cross, and that's where the nail was. So that's why we say Jesus. So ready? It's we remember Jesus. Amen.